In this video, I want to tell you three ways in which you can have better conversations in which occasionally you might feel that you are getting stuck somewhere, or both of you are kind of bored, you don't know where to take the conversation, you don't know what to talk about, how you can get out of that rut and take the conversation to interesting places. I do this show because I feel that after the pandemic and after the two lockdowns, there's actually been a drop in the ability of people to have good conversations. We've forgotten the art of having good conversations. I'm actually India's oldest continuous podcaster, and in both of them we have a lot of conversations, a lot of interactions with people from around the world. I have unofficially the most viral post on LinkedIn. Initiating conversations, both verbal terms as well as in writing, is something that we've been doing for a long time. So you might not think of it this way, but conversations and interaction must always be moving somewhere. They always must be in a flow. If they're not in a flow, the conversations end up getting a bit stale. So when you have motion in a conversation, it's not that you are intentionally injecting it with energy and high spirits. It's just that you can't stay on the same topic forever. You have to move the conversation. You have to evolve the conversation. You have to move it from one place to another. It can go deeper. It can go wider. It can go on to another topic altogether. It can go broader. So there are various ways in which the conversation can flow, and that is the intention of a good conversationalist who can take the conversation starting with where you are to another place altogether. So to boil my point down, basically when you get into a conversation, you can intentionally make sure that the conversation is moving. Small talk and conversation in general works much better if they are constantly moving. You need to know that you are starting at a certain place and think in your mind that where you can go. One of the things which we always seem to, it's a bit of a joke that we always want to talk about the weather or politics. Right, these days even politics is a bit of a dangerous topic. So you're probably left with the weather as a topic a lot of times. So how do you how long can you keep talking about the weather? So you need to create motion away from it, from a different angle. So you can plan your conversation like to resemble stories and movies. You can learn about different types of motion that you can create and you can introduce even into a conversation about weather. And probably you're doing this already. A lot of times the moment it starts raining and there's rain forecast or it's raining outside, the typical forwards or WhatsApp that go around are those of chai and pakoras, and everybody says that this is the time to eat chai and pakora. So you've already taken the conversation away from weather to a conversation about food, and then you can go deeper into it, which chai and pakoras you enjoyed the most. So if it's a school group, maybe you could talk about the chai and pakoras that you used to get in your school canteen, and then the auntie or the uncles over there who used to make these chai and pakoras, the taste that it was. Maybe it had too much of sugar, maybe it had no sugar at all, maybe it was from a tea leaf which was really low quality, but still you enjoyed the 5 rupee cup a lot. So you can share a personal experience. Maybe it was one of the time that you were missing class or escaping from class or planning for your sports event that you were all sitting over there having a cup of tea. So share a personal experience with the weather and ask, you can ask other people that what their favorite types of weather are, or the emotions that the weather brings. So different types, play around with the topic and you get different types of angles to the same topic, even if you talk about weather. And this you can apply in in anything at all, in any topic at all, so that the topic keeps moving rather than you going and getting stuck. Now, weather might be something that you have something to talk about. You may know, of course, everybody has something to talk about when it comes to the weather. But there's so many times when you are in a place which you have nothing to talk about. Say you have no interest in fashion, or you have no interest in motorcycles, and the conversation turns to that, or cars, or Formula One. There are a lot of things, or skiing. You may not know anything about the topic. In this case, there is a technique which I'm going to give you, which you can use to talk about nearly anything and be a part of a conversation, and continue to have that conversation in different ways. And this technique, you must practice it. It's a technique which in psychoanalytic therapy, and that technique is called free association. So in free association, what you do is, in this practice, basically a therapist and asks a person to freely share thoughts, words, or anything else that comes to your mind. And the thoughts and words, that they needn't be even coherent, or they needn't be even making us, a direct sense with one another. Like if you talk about motorcycles, you can talk about engines, car engines, times the motorcycles that were there in your childhood, the boy next door who was having a motorcycle, how you wanted a motorcycle, or any experience of motorcycles that you may be familiar with. And then motorcycle can go into a lot of different things. It can go into travel, like how motorcycle makes you feel free. And then free can go actually into the concept of freedom. So what does free mean to you? What does free mean to people? And then people start talking about freedom, and freedom in, if it's an international group, they'll start talking about freedom in their country. So then you start discussing how, if you're an Indian and you're talking with other people, so then how freedom has changed, or how freedom of the press has changed, where India or any country stands in the hierarchy of the press index. And then, you can talk about, so this, it just keeps flowing. So you started off with something like motorcycles, but actually you can go right up till and start discussing, press freedom and something very different. So if someone, this can be done to literally any word whatsoever. So if someone started talking about motorcycles and you have no idea or impression about the subject, then you can take it away into a totally different area, and breathe new life into the conversation. So take any subject. So I'm trying to think of a subject, say like skiing. Like not many people know about skiing. So you can talk about, somebody's talking about skiing and very passionate about skiing. So one way is like in the previous episode, I talked to you about how you can ask him a question. You can ask him a story that what happened when did you go skiing, and he'll tell you about the feeling on the slope and how it feels to go down the icy slope at around 40 kilometers per hour. And then you can talk about skiing, and then it goes back into, but hasn't the weather changed recently? And then you go talk about global warming, and then you talk about that for a couple of minutes, and then it goes into talking about how policies have changed and how industrialization is leading to global warming, or how ski slopes are being lost and what they're doing to retain ski slopes, and so on. And you can keep talking about though the conversation started with skiing, or even the fact that you know nothing about skiing, and somebody if they, like, what is the difference between, say, downhill skiing and ski jumping, and of course if you have some knowledge about it, the more you read, the more you are read the magazines. These days almost everybody has some knowledge about something, unless it is something very, very specific. It can be like, for instance, something like joints in railway tracks, or something very specific. Then you may not have any knowledge about it, but even then you may talk about something even as specific as that. I don't have any knowledge, but I'll talk about how the joints give that familiar clickety clack sound it used to when we were children, and that is going in trains, and the experience of going in trains and overnight journeys, and the places where trains took us, and how railway stations and the tea that you get at railway stations, and the magazines, and how one time my father bought me some juice at a railway station, and it made all of us sick because the juice was probably contaminated. So basically, wherever you can start from anywhere, and the conversation really goes into a really, really interesting direction. I'm sure even you right now are thinking about all these stories that I've just told you, and maybe it relates to something that you have thought about. So there are various ways in which you can take the same story. So free association is something which you can do, and I'm going to tell you how to do it even in a more organized manner right now. Now, how do you practice free association? This is the one way. Like on a piece of paper, write down 5 random words. Now, how do you get 5 random words? It's sometimes very difficult to get 5 random words. So what you do is you take like they're actually a random word generator, and I'm going to show you this. And here I'm showing you the demonstration of the random word generator. And type random word generator, and normally it comes on top, and just click random word generator, and over here you can actually choose the number of words that you want. So suppose you want 5 random words, and if you want all kinds of words, or if you only want nouns or verbs or adjectives, and you can even specify the first letter and the last letter, and you can choose the word size, and you just say random words. And here you have it: aunt, firm, chimney, deserve, modest are 5 random words that you can use. So that's your random word generator. You can also use it to generate sentences, phrases, and numbers, the same software. So you take this random word generator and you take the words that it gives out. You can choose any number of words, 3 words, 5 words, any number of words. And they can be anything. They can be like a noun, a verb, a memory, even an emotion or a feeling. And suppose the first word you write is, say, a napkin. So as quickly as possible in front of it, you write 3 associations with that word. So you can take the last word that you came up with, and again you write 3 more associations for that word, and then you move to the next set of words. Now I just write the 5 words, like and in front of each of these firms, I simply write what does each of them, 3 things that each of them reminds me of. Like it could be love, it could be food, it could be family trips, it could even be father. And similarly, you write things which you associate each of these with. Like firm could be like entrepreneurship, and so on. You do this for all the words. So practicing free association is an excellent foundation for good conversational skills, because conversation is basically about relating unrelated things to each other, and this helps you tackle that and to understand that how you can relate unrelated things to each other, and go to a variety of topics. So next time you're struggling, if you've done this practice enough, next time you're struggling with something to say, take a step back and tap into your previously practiced free association skills, and you'll definitely get something to you'll relate that word, or whatever the word that, or the conversation or the topic that the person is talking about, you'll relate that word to other words, and that will make it a lot more in the conversation a lot more interesting. So one more technique that I want to tell you about is a game which I would encourage you all to play with your friends. We used to have inter-school competitions in school and college, and I was part of the school team. And that game, for some of you might already be knowing about it, it's called Just a Minute, Jam. And basically Just a Minute is a game in which you are given a topic and you have to instantly start speaking about the topic without hesitation, deviation and repetition. So it can be literally any topic. Like you can pick up a topic from the paper. It can be a phrase. It can be like staying safe in Corona. So and you have to immediately start. So staying safe. If you are playing between 2 people, you immediately start. Like staying safe in Corona was the name of my ship that I sailed in from Delhi to. So that you must have seen there was a hesitation over there. So that hesitation is actually a negative point. Or if if you're playing with a group of 3 people, the other person has to point out that error. So it should be without hesitation, deviation or repetition. So the game goes to the other one, and this was very well played on the BBC. And here is a clip that of the game.
I'm going to ask them to speak, if they can, on the subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviating from the subject. They will score points as they challenge, and somebody will finish up as a winner, but that is secondary to the fun. And let us begin the show with Tony Hawks, and who better? And the subject to begin with, Tony, is my greatest wish. Tell us something about that subject of this game, starting now.
I suppose it's difficult to work out exactly what my greatest wish would be, but certainly I'd like to see an event in the Winter Olympics in which the British team could win a gold, and it would be called tobogganing down an unsuitable hill with insufficient snow on a bin liner or tray. And we, at last, would have an opportunity to excel in something like that. I'd also like to talk for a minute without hesitating, repeating.
Joe, you challenged.
Well, he said I'd also like to talk for a minute.
Yeah, well, I think he's actually deviating from my greatest wish because he wanted to talk about something else. So that is deviation from the subject which is on the card in front of me. So, Joe, you have a correct challenge. You have a point for that. And Joe takes over the subject, which is my greatest wish. There are 37 seconds left, starting now.
So just a minute should be something that will help you in immediately thinking of new topics and new areas to talk about, and how to take topics from one place to another very easily and very flowingly. And it's also a lot of fun because when you do this a couple of times, you can literally you see topics from different angles all the time. So these are the tools you can use to have interesting, long, and very conversations in which the other person really loves talking to you. So I hope you found this interesting, and don't forget to subscribe and to like the button if you like it, because we are going to continue with this series. And if you like and if you subscribe to it, you'll get a notification next time we put up our next video.